Hi, greetings. I'm Reverend Patricia Sunday Ministries. We are in a study of the Word from beginning to end. So study in the Word, Revelation, Genesis to Revelation. Last time we left off in chapter 18, Sarah laughing with herself that she was going to have a baby in her old age. So today we're going to start with verse 13. And the Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh, saying, 'Shall I truly bear a child when I am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you at this season, and Sarah, your wife, shall be with child, and shall have a son.' Then Sarah denied, saying, 'I did not laugh,' because she was afraid. And he said, 'No, you did laugh.'" God knows our inward thoughts, our inward speech. And he said, "Yeah, you did laugh." Well, so he knows our inward thoughts and our laughter. And the men rose up from there and looked toward Sodom. And Abraham went with them to see them off. And the Lord said, "Shall I hide from my servant Abraham the thing of which I'm going to do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely make a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed through him. For I know him well." Let's underline, I know him well. For God does know everything about us. And that he will command his children. And they know he knows how we're going to teach our children. Have we taught them in the ways of the Lord? And some of us are not guilty. Some of us are guilty of not training up our children all the way that we should. But believe me, the Lord will snatch them up. And his household after him to keep the ways of the Lord, to do justice and righteousness. For the Lord shall fulfill for Abraham the thing that he has spoken concerning him. And the Lord said, "Because of the cry, Sodom and Gomorrah has come up before me, and their sins are very grievous. I will go down and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry which has come before me, and if not, I will know." So what is the cry that's come before them? Who was crying, and how were they crying? There must have been some people somewhere in that city that were calling on God, even though they may have not known God, and said, "God, help us, help us, because of this wicked, wicked city. They want to have their way with all of us." So the cry had gone up. It may even have gone up by a lot. We don't know, because the Bible does not speak of that. Verse 22. So the men turned from there and went toward Sodom, but Abraham stood yet before the Lord. So right in this verse, Abraham stood yet before the Lord, because we look back at verse 1 of chapter 18, and now we know for sure who that man was, in the middle of the two angels on each side of him, the three people. So the Lord stayed with Abraham while the other two angels, went into Sodom. And Abraham drew near and said, "Wilt thou in thine anger destroy the righteous with the sinners?" Okay, so Abraham thinks that there are righteous people in that city. And as we know, only Lot's family comes out. So let's look at the transition of things that happened there. We know that only Lot and his family came out. So there were people in that city who were crying out to the Lord, to God, but they didn't come out because they weren't righteous. They weren't altogether what the Lord wanted to say, what he called righteous. Wilt thou in thine anger destroy the righteous with the sinners? Suppose there are 50 within the city. And here we start the bargaining with the Lord. Wilt thou in thine anger destroy it and not spare the place for the sake of the 50 righteous that are in it? Far be it from thee to do such a thing as this, to slay the innocent with the guilty. Well, let's underline, to slay the innocent with the guilty. O thou judge of the whole earth, such a judgment should never be carried out. And the Lord said, if I find in Sodom righteous in the city, then I will spare the whole country for their sake. Okay? Here's an example that we need to be praying for our nation. Because if we're not crying out and praying for our nation for righteousness, we are not going to be spared in this country. Even if we pray in our prayers and bargain with God, Lord, if there's 1,000 righteous in Florida, let's say there's 100,000 righteous in the United States. Let's gear our prayers like this. He bargained all the way down to 10 people. We're going to go through it. And Abraham said, behold, I have ventured to speak before the Lord, and yet I am dust and ashes. But the Lord will listen to us. He said he would spare them for their sake. So we need to be praying. Intercession. Those of you who are intercessors, get on your knees and pray for this nation to be spared destruction like Sodom and Gomorrah were. And Abraham said, I have ventured to speak before the Lord, and yet I am but dust and ashes. And that's what we are. Suppose there shall lack 5 of the 50. Shall there only be 45? He said, I will not. And Abraham spoke to him and said, suppose there is only 40 found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for the 40. Then he said, oh, let not the Lord be displeased, and I will speak. Suppose there only be 30 there. And the Lord said, I will not destroy it if I find 30 there. So we're looking at Abraham's not quite sure there's anybody there, so he keeps giving the number. And he said, behold, I to speak before the Lord, suppose there are only 20 found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for the sake of 20. He said, oh, let not the Lord be displeased, and I will speak once more. Suppose there's only 10 found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for the sake of 10. Now there was Lot and his wife, and he had a family. So this obviously means that even all of Lot's family was not saved. And the Lord went his way, and when he had finished communing with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. Okay, we're going into chapter 19. And what we're seeing here is angels coming to reap or take the saved out of the city before destruction. And it's a picture of the rapture of the second coming for us. There came 2 angels, or ministers, to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting at the gate of Sodom. He was the gatekeeper, the hospitality person, sat there and rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face to the ground. Now, here's something we need to see. Abraham did not bow to angels. Abraham only bowed to the Lord, and he knew who he was. But here we see Lot bows to the angels, which is we're not allowed to do. Lot saw them and rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face towards the ground. And he said, My lords, turn, I pray you, unto your servant's house, and spend the night and wash your feet. Then rise up early in the morning and go your way. And they said, No, we will spend the night in the street. Now Lot knew that wasn't a good idea. The angels were actually testing him to see what he would do. And Lot urged them greatly. They turned into him and entered into his house, and he made them a feast and baked unleavened cakes, and they ate. And underline baked unleavened cakes, because this shows up in a feast later. And what it means is unleavened bread is no sin. But before they lay down, the men of the city, that is, the men of Sodom, surrounded the house. So before the two angels could even get in the house and lie down for the night, the house was surrounded by the homosexuals. All the people of the town, and they were both, and it says they were both young and old. All the people of the town. All. Circle all. Circle men of Sodom. Men of Sodom. Young and old. And circle all. So these men were young, and that says that the men of the city. Well, if all the men of the city, it says all the people of the town, all the men of the city, all the people of the town were men, then where were the women in that town? Apparently, there were only Lot's wife and 2 daughters. The 2 daughters couldn't have children and get married because there was nobody to marry. They were all signs. And they called to Lot and said to him, Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us that we may know them. So every single one, they were so wicked that the whole town was full of men, wicked men, and they wanted the angels to know them, to have relations with them also. It wasn't good enough to have what they had. They had to have strange meat, strange fire. And this is a picture of the strange fire that comes in, even in righteous church services that are brought in by people who are not saved. Excuse me. Verse 6. And Lot went out the door to them, and he shut the door after himself, didn't want them getting in. And Lot said to them, I pray you, my brethren, do not so wickedly. Now, he calls them his brethren. So he is in a city where he is rubbing elbows with the wicked Sodomites, and he calls them his brethren, and yet he won't move. He didn't move. He was still sitting right where he was. And Lot said to them, my brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, I have 2 daughters who have not known man. Can you imagine? He placed, and this is a picture of placing God's angels above their own family, or placing something that is righteous, because the angels were righteous. He did not want the angels befouled. So he would rather give his own 2 precious virgin daughters to them. But they didn't want them. They didn't want anything to do with the women. Let me bring them out to you and do to them whatever you please. Now, first thought is, what a horrible father he is to want to give those girls to all those men all at one time. That would have been rape, but they didn't want them. And do to them whatever you please. Only to these men do nothing, for they have come under my protection of my roof. So once they were in his house, and his house was supposed to be righteous, then he had to protect them. Verse 9, and they said, get away. And they said again, the fellow came to sojourn among us, and now he tries to judge us. Okay, now they're talking, now they're turning on Lot, saying, you came to live with us. You want to stay here and live with us, yet you try to judge us. So is that what we're doing in our city, wherever you are in our city? We're judging them with righteous judgment. We can judge, but the world is judged already. We don't have to judge them. God's already going to judge them. We know what they are. But Lot was still living with them. We can't move from where we are. And apparently Lot felt that he could not move because that was where he moved. So apparently when he moved there, it was okay, but then it got progressively worse. And you think, well, why do I have to move? I'm righteous. But sometimes we do. We have to move away from what is wicked in order to begin again and start somewhere where it's fresh and clean. Anyway, now we will deal worse with you than with them. Then Lot fought desperately, and they drew near to break the door. So here is one man contending with, and it doesn't give us the number, but it's a city, and it's all nothing but men, so there must be a lot of them. But the men put forth their hands and pulled Lot. Okay. So the angels, now we're going back to the angels, and it says, the men put forth their hands and pulled Lot into the house to them and locked the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness. So they simply said blindness, and they were physically blinded. Now, verse 11, and they smote. Oh, let's just talk about the blindness a minute. Let's underline blindness. This is what's happening on earth now. God said he would send a strong delusion to it. And so not only people who are in idolatry and are in wicked churches, they have been smote with a blindness. A veil has come over their face. So now that they believe all that lie, they're just blind, and it's going to take something from God to wake them up. And here, they were at the door, and he physically smote them with blindness. But in our day, they are spiritually blind as well. From the least to the greatest, they became tired, trying in vain to find the door. And the men said to Lot, what are you doing in this place? Now your sons-in-law, your sons, your daughters, and whoever you have in this city, take them out of this place. Okay, so now we see that there's Lot and his wife, and then it's his sons-in-law. So now he had two daughters he was offering to them that were virgins. So it was Lot, his wife, two daughters, but now it says there were daughters that had sons-in-laws with them. So he must have had another couple of daughters and a couple of sons. That was about 8 people. About 8 people. Take them out of this place. So there were 8 semi-righteous people there. Now, what was the last thing that Abraham had bargained on? He bargained on 10. So he should have gone down a few more numbers if he wanted them saved. But you'd think 10. Maybe Lot had 10 in his family. I just kind of counted up 8. But what if Lot had 10 in his family? We're going to see why it was still destroyed. For we will destroy this place because the city of the oppressed has come before the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. Then Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who were his daughters, and said, now this is plural, so he had to have at least, he had 2 single daughters, he must have had 2 married daughters, and or at least 2, maybe 3 or 4. He said, arise, get out of this place, but the Lord will destroy it. But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. And when the morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying, let's underline when the morning dawned. When the morning dawned. So this is the picture of us going out of the world in the morning time. And we're looking at that side of the world. So morning over there, evening over in the United States and the Americas. It would be evening time. Now, and when the morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying, arise, your wife and your 2 daughters, who are not given in marriage. Because if the men didn't want to go, then they had to leave their married daughters behind whether they wanted to or not. Lest you be engulfed in the sins of the city. So that's a picture of us maybe having to leave some married daughters behind that and are with their husbands. Lot lingered, then the angels held his hand and the hand of his wife and the hands of his 2 daughters, because the Lord pitied him. And they took him out and set him outside the city. Now, nowhere have we seen that even Lot and his daughters were righteous. The Lord just pitied him because he was Abraham's nephew. He was family because Abraham had prayed and entreated him and asked the Lord to go get him out. And they took out and set him beside the city. So there were 4 people saved out of that city, out of that huge amount of people. And it came to pass, when they had brought them out of the city, they said to Lot, now escape. Let's circle escape for your life. Run for your life. Do not look back or stop anywhere in the plain, because whatever this destruction was going to happen in Sodom, Gomorrah was going to spread out into the plains. In other words, when you have an atomic bomb or a nuclear bomb, there's a certain radius you need to be away from it so that you don't get blinded or blown away with it, because it reaches a long way. But flee to the mountain lest you be consumed. And Lot said to them, I beseech you, my lords, behold now, your servant has found, if your servant has found mercy in your sight, and great is the favor which you have shown to me in saving my life, but I cannot escape to the mountain, lest evil overtake me and I die. So here is a picture of Lot. Now, the Lord has given him a command to go to the mountain, go up to the mountain. But here he's not going to obey the Lord. He's going to say, give me somewhere else to go, somewhere closer. Behold now, this town is near. Let's circle underline the town. Behold, this town is near to flee to, and it is a little one. So this is a little town he's fleeing to. And oh, let me escape. Let's circle escape again there, or whatever word is in your Bible. And this one, translation that Jesus spoke, the Aramaic, so it's escape. And behold, because it is a little one, my life will be spared. In other words, he thought just because it's a little city, he was going to be okay there. Get out of the big city with the sodomites, go to the small city. But we're going to see the small city wasn't that safe. And he said to him, see, I have granted you this thing also, that I will not overthrow the city of which you have spoken. So he was going to Zoar, which was a very small little town. And he said, make haste and escape there, for I cannot do anything till you enter into the city. Now, I want you to circle, I can't do anything till you enter the city. I'm going to draw a line from the two escape circle down to this circle that I'm putting on. I can't do anything till you leave. Because if we're going to escape in the rapture, we're going to be raptured. I'm writing escape, rapture / second coming at the bottom. Here's another instance of rapture. We've already seen like 2, maybe 3 times in Genesis talking about a type of rapture between Noah's day and Lot's day here. And the Lord told us he was coming back as in the days of Noah and Lot. So those are the things we're to be watching for. So he said, make haste and escape there, for I can't do anything till you enter into it. Therefore, the name of the city was called Zoar. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. So the sun was up in the morning when the escape came on that side of the world. If that were to rapture today, there's 8 hours time difference between Jerusalem and here. They would be, so we would be 8 hours past them. If it were morning there, it would be evening here. I believe that's the way it is. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the region and that which grew on the ground. Everything was totally destroyed. Verse 26, but, let's circle the but. There's always a but. His wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. Now, she did not literally become a pillar of salt. The pillar of salt is a Jewish idiom. It's a colloquialism. Can you say the word colloquialism? It's something that you say that does not means. Pillar of salt means that she became petrified with fear and died. So as she turned and looked back and saw what had happened to the city and saw big plumes of smoke up, and as it comes rolling out, with her standing still looking back, she got it straight on. She should have kept moving and it would not have hit her. Anyway, we're going to stop there now till next time. I'm going to work on pronouncing that word. And I hope you will all be back with me next time. I enjoyed it. We're going to learn more next time, and we're going to keep going on through the Bible. We're going to get read this year. Praise God. Thank you.